Hi everyone, welcome to the round 6 recap for the tournament that I played this last weekend. If you're just interested in the chess, you can jump ahead to this timestamp over here. If you're interested in a little bit of drama that will be told before and after the game, then you can hang around and also set the scene for where we were in the tournament at this stage. If you haven't been following along, you can go and check out the playlist that's in the description for rounds 1 to 5. But basically what had happened, I'm on a score of 3 out of 5, and I wasn't leading the tournament at this stage. I think I was 3rd in the tournament. But because there were 7 players and there were 6 rounds in the tournament, and you can't have 3.5 games happening at the same time, in each and every single round, one person was getting a bye. And with 6 rounds, that meant that 6 of the 7 players were going to get a bye. If you don't know what a bye is, it's basically when a player just isn't paired for that round. And usually what happens is you get 1 point when you don't play the game. So 1 point and then you get added back in and you can't have a bye again. Another feature is that usually the bye is given to the player who is doing the worst in the tournament at that time. So someone who has 0 points would get a bye. It's not usually the tournament winner who has a bye. And by the time we got to this round over here, the reason I was assuming that I was going to get a bye, and everyone was assuming that I was going to get a bye, was that you had the tournament winner on, or the eventual tournament winner who was on 5 out of 5, and you had everyone else who'd had a bye, and then I was sitting on 3 out of 5. So 5 out of 5 versus 3 out of 5, you don't need to be a maths genius to figure out that I was the player who was doing worse in the tournament, and I should therefore have gotten a bye. So before the round happened, the arbiter chatted to a couple of the players. It was kind of a informal discussion, and he told us that he realized that the computer was busy allocating 0 points when everyone got a bye. And he asked, would we prefer that everyone got added a point if you'd had a bye, or would we prefer it if you just kept it at 0 points? And everyone was assuming here that I was going to get the bye, and the arbiter said as well, it shouldn't make an issue. If the tournament winner had lost his previous round, then it might make a bit of an issue that he wouldn't be on full score. But by this stage, he was so far ahead of everyone else that even if someone got a 1 point for a bye versus 0 points, no one could catch him. And we're assuming that I'm going to get a bye, so everyone else will then have just got a 0 point round, and it shouldn't affect the overall standing. So this was the discussion that was had beforehand. I finished my game. I'm like, awesome, I'm done. My tournament's over. I'm super happy with it. I also managed to avoid playing against the top seed in the actual tournament. And not the tournament winner, but the highest rated person in the field, who I lost against last time we played in an over-the-board event. So I was like, I'm happy with this. This is great. What happened then was, as I was busy asking the arbiter, I'm like, can I go home by any chance? Because I'm like, this would be amazing. I'm done at 12 o'clock on the Sunday. I can then drive back home. I'll be back early afternoon. I can have a chilled rest of the day. So I'm asking the tournament organizer, can I head back? Is that okay? Do I have to stay for the prize giving? Because the usual thing is that to get a prize, you have to be present at the prize giving. So I was chatting to them, and as I was saying that, the arbiter looks up and he's like, Rebecca, you don't have a draw. And I was like, wait, no, you're lying to me. How is this working? And it so happened that because I think of the way people had played against each other, I thought that it was because of the fact that the tournament winner was going to win no matter what. But for second and third place, if I played and I was in contention for second or third place, then at least you get a clearer distinction of players, perhaps. I don't know, but I thought it was strange that I was getting a game. And that was the thought that went into it. I was like, first of all, this really, 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 really sucks. In terms of, I know I'm at a chess tournament to play chess, but when you've clocked out and you're like, my tournament is over, and then to be told that not only do you have to play a game, but you have to play against the highest seed. And then also it was happening in 15 minutes, and I hadn't had breakfast. I hadn't had lunch. I was just full on chilling, and then I'm I have to play a game in 15 minutes. So my approach to it, I was well, this really sucks. And I rushed to go and get a Coke so that I could have higher sugar levels, which was a really bad idea in retrospect, because then I was shaky from the caffeine and not having eaten. And I ate more sugar stuff. I only had sugared food, and I didn't have enough time to get actual food before the next round started. And yeah, that was the thought that went into it. And then when I was sitting at the board and when I was talking to the other players at the start, I was like, okay, I suppose even though I have to play another game and I'm the only person in the tournament who's had to play 6 of the rounds, which is from a fatigue perspective, not great. And I was like, at least I have a chance to, the way that the standings are working at the moment, or at that stage, I'll see if I can put it on the screen over here. But I was heading into it that if everyone had 0 points for the bye, I needed a loss in order to get joint third or second. I needed a win or a draw in order to come clear second. Like the other people couldn't catch up to me. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks for the people who got the bye. But then I was like, but it also really sucks for me because I now have to play like an extra game and I have to actually win the game in order to place or win or draw the game. And it's against a really strong player as well. So that was my thoughts going into it. And if it seems like a long story, it'll make more sense towards the end of the towards the end. I'll give the drama of what happened after the game, and I know some people have been asking about that in the Discord. But anyway, let's head into the chess so you know the setting. I'm like pretty hungry. I'm proper like hopped up on sugar. I have a really strong opponent. I'm not really in the mood to play chess, but I'm here and I've got to give it my best shot. So as you can see, my opponent was the 1894 highest rated player in the field, and we played actually against each other in the 2021 tournament that I played, the last over the board event. And I remember I did lose that game, so I wasn't super keen to play, but we started off with d4. I went d5, c4, c6. I'm usually quite comfortable playing against d4. I like vaguely know my theory for this, or I can just stumble my way through everything. And after knight f3, knight c6, g3, once again, I think every single opponent, except for in the previous round, fianchettoed against me. It was crazy. And then I decided to take on c4. There were two reasons for this. The one reason is I'm pretty sure that like in the depths of my memory when I used to play, or when I studied some of these lines, I think, I also thought this was a Catalan, but I think that after g3, I'm supposed to, in my theory, take on c4. And then another reason is just that like gave me comfort is almost every time I've analyzed a d4, d5 game, with the computer, it always tells me to just take on c4, even when the bishop can capture it back. So I was like, you know what, it's fine. If I drop the pawn, we'll survive. We'll make a plan. So bishop to g3, I was like really trying to think about my theory. The general setup, I think, is you have like queen b6, there's an a6, your knight goes to d2, there's some really, really, really crazy stuff where you go like c5, bishop takes c5, your king just chills in the center of the board. There's some theory, I'm not even sure if it's in this line, where you even let your opponent, they get like 2 pawns here. Can't remember it, so I was just trying these things out and seeing what works and thinking I'll just go over my theory after the game. So my opponent castled. I now played e6. I wasn't sure here if I should have gone a6 or bishop b7 or queen to b6, but I thought I don't really want them to play d5 because then if I take back, yeah, it's not their turn, but if they play d5 and I take back, maybe this pawn will start to get a little bit weak. Knight c3 can be played. This bishop, you don't want to give it any chances and get towards the rook. So I thought e6 at least holds everything together. I'm planning on going bishop b7 in any case, so this isn't busy blocking my bishop in at all, and it's also preparing to just move my bishop so that I can castle. So my opponent played a4, and here once again I couldn't really remember the theory, but I thought it was bishop b7, and looking at the opening tree it seems like that is one of the most common moves. Knight to e5, then queen to b6. The idea, if you take back over here, I'm defending the bishop, so that's all good. And it's just good in general to have the bishop defended, and I'm also defending c6 again. So far so good, and then knight c3 happened, and I was like, okay. Can't remember, am I supposed to go a6? I don't think I'm supposed to go knight d7, but I looked at that move as well. And I also looked at b4. I looked for quite a lot of time, more time than I'm proud to admit, at b4. The big issue with b4, I think, is that this might be a move in future. I don't think it's a move right now because queen a6 maybe hits both knights, but it gets really, really complicated and really tricky. But yeah, so I didn't see that this would make this pawn really weak. I was thinking, because there's one of the other lines, as I say, I was getting very confused with theory, or one of the other lines where you push over here, you play a4, but it's not when the knight is on e5. So in the end, I opted for bishop to b4 because I thought this knight is potentially going to be attacking b5, so I might want to trade it off at some stage. I also just want to get my bishop out the way so that I can castle. King safety is key. So after bishop to b4, my opponent played e4. I thought king safety, get castle to get out the middle, and then bishop e3 was played. And over here, I'm not entirely sure what I was thinking about, because I ended up playing knight b d7. I know I calculated a lot over here. I realized that this is potentially a problem, so I think I spent a lot of time busy calculating, can I like take over here? If they take back, like, do I have to worry about that? Do I have to worry about them pushing over here? I think maybe this is actually the line that I was looking at, because I was very, very tempted to go for this. A queen takes, and then if you take back, take over here, and I get 3 minor pieces. I don't know if I would have been brave enough to play this. It is quite frequently that 3 minor pieces are better than a queen, but I'm a scaredy cat when it comes to things like that. So I wasn't sure if I was going to go into this, but I calculated that out a little bit as well. And I think what I opted for in the end, knight bd7, I was thinking, for some reason that I can't quite fathom, I was thinking that you can't push because then I take the knight on e5. But that doesn't make any sense because if I take the knight on e5, you take over here. And I think it was after playing knight to d7, I realized that I wasn't actually getting enough pieces. Let's say I take this one, you can take back, I can take here, and I've got 2 minor pieces for the queen, which I don't really want to have. So yeah, knight b to d7 doesn't really make the most sense. I might have also been looking at knight to c5 after pushing, but yeah, I realized that d5 is something that is quite concerning and I wasn't entirely sure what to do about it. I thought this would be okay, and it was only later that I realized after this, there's a whole long line where I end up losing a pawn because after pawn takes, so let's say knight takes over here. Sorry, let's say I block like this. After knight takes over here, and if I take back, even just this wins a pawn. So over here, the idea is that the queen is attacking the knight, and if I move the knight somewhere, you can take here with check, and there's stuff happening here. So I was just very, very uncomfortable after all of this. After d5, I then thought, I was like, can I go bishop here? Can I go knight here? And I looked at all the possibilities, and the one that I decided was best was just c5. So I thought, I'm going to lose a pawn. It's not the most comfortable for me. I thought that I was going to be losing this pawn, though. I didn't see that I might be losing this pawn on this side, which is what happened in the actual game. And I thought I might be okay if I lost this pawn, because I maybe get an open f-file. But unfortunately, my opponent did have other plans, so after knight takes, I went back over here, knight took, and I decided to take over here so that there was no d takes e6. This is quite, it's gone from a position where I was like, okay, hopefully I'm vaguely in theory, to a position where I was like, I'm definitely not in theory, unless I'm a pawn down, or I'm about to be a pawn down, and my pawns are just like really not the greatest over here, and I don't like this, and my opponent has quite an advanced pawn, so I wasn't happy in this situation. I was still having comfort in the fact that, in my mind, if I lost the game, I was going to come joint, I think joint second or joint third, and at that stage we thought we were sharing prize money, that tie breaks didn't like distinguish places, so I was like, you know what, if I lose I get to cover my accommodation costs, so that's fine. So I took over here, they took back with the pawn, and this is now looking quite unpleasant. I also have like an awkwardly placed bishop. This bishop now is just like really passive, plus it's potentially going to be under threat after d6 in future. So not looking too happy. I decided though, let me just try and chase the knight back, so I played a6. And after knight goes back, I'm thinking maybe I can go here at some stage in future. I also, at this stage, I started thinking, it's not the easiest for them to dislodge this pawn right now. I mean, maybe in future they can go b3, but they can't at the moment because I take the free knight. So I was thinking, could I maybe get a knight to d3? Because if I do that, there are 2 advantages. Possibly 3. The one advantage is that I am just attacking that pawn. Another advantage is I'm busy like restricting the queen from moving and also stopping the rooks from going to these 2 files. And then the third thing is if I get a knight on d3, the queen is no longer defending d5. So there might be a situation in future where I can maybe go bishop takes and then win this pawn if I can get like a rook or a queen to attack the pawn as well. Because then the only defender is the bishop, whereas at the moment it's like really, really well defended. It has the bishop, the knight, and the queen. Another consideration as well here was I thought this doesn't look too great because rook b1 is going to come at some stage in future, and then my bishop is being attacked. Then if the pawn's pushed, it is like proper being attacked, and there might be a situation where they can push the pawn and like, I don't know, attack my queen or something like that, and I don't have time to defend the bishop or to go take over here. So not very happy, so I decided instead of taking, let's go knight here, and I'll only take the knight when it's absolutely necessary. So knight to e5, queen went across to c2, and here I thought, okay, let's just attack this, because if I go rook across, I'm attacking the pawn, so I'm now just threatening potentially takes. Let's say I just get a random move. I thought I might be threatening takes over here, takes here, take, and take. That might be possible. They would probably here take back with the queen, but then maybe I get play along the b file in future. Maybe I can go like here, queen takes, knight takes. It wasn't looking very solid, it wasn't looking very great, but this was the thoughts going through my mind. And that is why I played rook h to d8. My opponent then just defended it, so now I thought, let's bring my other rook to the center. You don't want to always force things as well. You want to take your time sometimes. So I could like just jump here immediately, but then I was thinking maybe this starts to become something I'm worried about because now the knight is defended by the queen. So I thought, let me just be patient. I might have a different use for the knight. Maybe I want to go like g4. Maybe actually, I think at this point I was thinking g4 could be a decent move. So that's as well why I went rook to e8, with the idea that after g4, I'm busy attacking this bishop twice. I might be able to go like queen h6. I might be able to go queen f6 and start attacking this pawn over here. So yeah, these are the sort of counterplay options that I was looking at. Unfortunately, then my opponent went h3, so I was like, well, knight g4 is not going to happen. So then I decided to just go queen to f6 with the idea that after I hop over here, the queen's then kind of babysitting. It's babysitting the knight and it's babysitting the pawn. Because notice as well that when my knight moves, I'm busy attacking the knight with the queen as well. So there's a little bit of extra pressure there. The queen then swung across, and now I decided this was the time to take the knight. I was a little bit worried. I wasn't sure what would happen if the knight went across to e4, potentially. I was like, then it's attacking the queen. It's maybe supporting this push. It seems to be defended for now. The queen as well over here is just defending against knight f3, bishop here, and queen takes. So that's also what I was looking at. And there I was even considering, so let's say they just make a random move. Here I was even considering after takes, and if they make another random move, sometimes we do have to just dream that our opponent will decide not to make moves and just go back and forth. I was looking possibly even at taking over here. So I was thinking I can take, if you take back here, like maybe I get a perpetual check, maybe I can just pick up a bunch of pawns, maybe my bishop can come in quite strong, I can take over here, take over here. So I thought this was kind of what I was going for. So queen e2 was also quite an annoying move for me because it did block things. Where is that though? Queen f6. Yeah, queen e2. And at this stage, my opponent had a lot more time than me. I was down to about like, I was down to 31 minutes. So I used about half of my time so far. And we've done 20 moves so far. My opponent had a lot more than that. But then after the next two moves, there was a lot of thought that went into the next two moves. We were both then roughly equal on the clock. It brought us both down to about 25, 26 minutes. So after queen e2, I eventually decided I'm going to take here first, with the idea that then I'm going to go to d3. I'm going to maybe try win this pawn. I thought this bishop is busy being pinned. This seems to be the best option, and I really just didn't like knight to e4. I also wasn't happy, like this was potentially going to be weak in future, so I thought, let me just get rid of the knight. And this is also a moment where after they take back, this isn't really a huge thing that I'm worried about. So knight over here, busy, what was it doing over here? Busy threatening to take this pawn. I think that was my main plan. This pawn was causing me a lot of worries, and I really just wanted to get rid of it. So knight across, and without hesitating, basically my opponent took on d3, and I was like, wait, why did I not even calculate that? It's weird, because it's another thing in chess that almost every single time my opponent gives up their rook for my knight, I'm usually disappointed with that. Which sounds really strange because in chess a rook is worth 5 points, a knight is worth 3 points. So my opponent is giving me material. But I'm at the stage where when people do that against me, they know exactly what they're doing. I wasn't necessarily expecting it because I was like, why would you take my knight when you have a rook? And then afterwards I'm like, makes sense. That is why you would do it. So I was very unhappy here. I was like, my beautiful knight that was like potentially going to do things, and it was blocking out the rook so that I was going to win this pawn, and then I didn't have to worry about this pawn promoting. It was going to solve all my problems. It's now gone, and I'm going to lose this pawn. And I'm probably going to lose this pawn as well. So I wasn't very happy. I took over here, and after the queen took, I then thought for quite a lot. And here I saw that I had a really nice defensive resource, which I had definitely not seen a couple of moves ago. It's not like I went knight to d3 planning all of this. At this stage, I thought I was lost, and I was thinking, I need to really have a big think. The dog even knows what's up. I was like, I have to have a big think and try and figure out what I can do here, because else I'm basically just resigning, and that's not how I want to go down. Because they're threatening to potentially push the pawn once they move their rook to safety. This pawn's probably going to go through. I still have back rank problems. I haven't pushed any of these pawns. This is going to drop. Just like, this is a nightmare. And probably as well, if I move this away, this is going to drop. And then I'm in a situation where they just have 3 pawns. And sure, I have an extra exchange, but I'm down a couple of pawns and they're passed pawns. So I managed to find bishop to d5. Which I thought about this for quite a bit. Maybe not as long as I would usually have thought on a move. But yeah, I was like, this is my only chance. So either it works, and then I'm okay. Or it doesn't work, and then I lose, but I was gonna lose anyway, so I might as well try it. So bishop takes d5, and the whole idea over here was First of all, you can't just take the pawn or something like this because then I'm attacking the queen. So there's a discovered attack over there. And the move that I saw then was after bishop takes, and I don't know if you can do anything else after this. So if you move your like queen, let's say you move your queen across somewhere, I can then take on g2, and then I have time to defend these 2 pawns, and now I'm just an exchange up. I mean, look at this situation compared to if we go back to this situation. It's looking a whole lot better because this pawn is gone, and it's also now it's my move. It's my move, so I could even just go like queen c6 or hold off on that. So yeah, really nice. I can go h6. I have enough time to do all of this. My opponent took though, which is kind of forced, and now I have the move, which is like really strange looking, but rook e5. Because I saw that if you did try to defend it, yeah, I saw that if you try and defend it, the problem is I can go here. Well, it's not a problem for me, it's great for me. I can go over here, and you could be like, but Rebecca, they just take. I take your rook. Then I'm still an exchange up. I managed to get rid of one of the pawns. The king's in check. I should be able to defend these pawns. I also still have my rook. I can deal with my back rank. So once again, everything's looking a whole lot better. So that's not a possibility to defend. Rook e5, I then also saw, so you can't defend it like this. You can't move your bishop out the way. This also doesn't work because I can take with the king, very importantly. You don't want to take here because then queen takes over here. But I can take back with the king, and my queen is defending my rook on d8. So that's not a tactic. And then the other thing is what my opponent played in the game. So rook to d1. And rook to d1, I realized that your rook can't be defended after I go like this. You actually have to give up the queen for the rook, or queen for the 2 rooks, because if you try hang on your queen, I can just go back like this. And this is completely winning for me. I'm an entire rook and an exchange up. And your king's not the safest king in the world. So this was basically forced, and by now we're down to about 20 minutes on the clock. So there's still quite a bit of time left. And I then played rook takes d5, and I offered a draw over here. My opponent didn't really consider the draw at all, it just took back. And my rationale for offering the draw, so remember I said at the start of this game, I was thinking, if I get a draw, or if I win, I can clear second in the tournament, which is not bad. I was not expecting second place in the tournament. And over here I was like, sure, I think I have the advantage, but it's probably really slight, because I do need to, I can't defend this pawn at the moment. I could potentially push it, but like that seems to complicate matters, and it'll probably drop anyway because I still need to worry about my back rank. So I was like, I'm going to drop this pawn. The king is like fairly safe. So I'm like, maybe there's a risk. It's always tricky playing against, your opponent has 2 pieces, I only have 1 piece. Sure, I have the more powerful piece, but their bishop seems to be on the right color. It can probably defend this pawn over here. I can't take this pawn over here because then I do get back rank mated. It might be tricky to get this pawn as well, but I can probably get it. So I was like, I don't know, I might have an advantage here. I might have a slight disadvantage. It might just be completely equal. So I thought, let me offer the draw. If my opponent accepts, I didn't think he would accept because I thought that he had to get a win in order to tie for second place with me and with the one other player who had to win his game to get second. So I was like, I don't think he'll accept because he has to play for a win in order to place anywhere and like get some prize money. But I thought, let me offer anyway, because maybe he feels he's down in this position and he would rather just take the draw rather than carry on playing and risk losing. So he didn't accept the draw, so I was like, it's fine, I'll just defend my back rank. And I went h6, then the rook took over here. And once again, I think I had quite a big think over here because I was trying to decide, what is my plan? How do I play this position? So the first thing is I realized that I can't drop this pawn, because if I drop this pawn, my opponent then has 2 pawns which are passed pawns. They're really far away from my king. They have 2 pieces to defend, so it's tricky then for the queen to fight against it. So I was like, I basically have to make sure I don't drop this pawn. I need to make sure that maybe I can win one of these pawns. And more importantly, I saw I didn't have any perpetual checks because the king can escape. So I thought the other thing I need to do over here is I need to try and attack the king. So I need to try like push these pawns. I need to try and open things up for the king. So potentially I get a perpetual check, then I get my draw. I'm happy with my draw. It's not that I was busy playing for a draw over here. It's just I knew it was tricky to try and get a win. So I was like, I'm happy with a draw. If I get an opportunity for a win, obviously like that's great. But if I get a draw, it's not the end of the world. I'm still happy to have come back from a situation where I thought I was losing. So I went queen to e6. The idea that if they like go after this pawn, I might have taken here. I'm not entirely sure. But I thought if this pawn does drop, then there's a lot better chances of a perpetual check. So maybe I can go here and then have the like check, check, check if the rook moves off. But the king, of course, defended it. So then I went g5. And usually the advice is when you're defending or playing for a draw, you're not supposed to push your pawns. But once again, as I said, I wasn't sure if I was playing for a draw here or for a win, or if I was losing. So I thought, let me just do this and try and break open things around the king. So after g5, my opponent went a5. Weirdly enough, I didn't spot this move. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, if you're defending over here, defending the pawns, you want to get them on the same color as your bishop. So if I ever attack them, you can just defend it with your bishop, which is on the same color. But yeah, it didn't cross my mind. So a5 was a bit of a surprise when it came. But I thought, I'm just going to carry on with f5. So I'm going to do this. And I was even thinking, like, if I manage to get a pawn a little bit more advanced, there might be some checkmating ideas. So there's a glimmer of hope. I'm not just full on playing for a draw. My opponent here played h4, which I thought was a little bit of a strange move. I think over here I was expecting maybe even like, maybe not bishop d4 over here because I can push, but I was expecting maybe the king to move, maybe the rook to just randomly move somewhere, like something else. I suppose there are not that many moves to be made in this position, but I wasn't expecting the pawn push because I was quite happy with this because I can take, and if you take back, I now have this open diagonal to the king. And also having the queen, it makes it a lot easier if there are like checks to the king, because there's always the chance that my opponent will slip up and leave his rook undefended, for example. At the moment, everything is pretty much defended. If you look at all of this, it's like all just hanging together. It's all fine. But let's say the rook tries and goes to do something. Let's say it goes, okay, it's not their turn. Let's say they go to c7. Then I can do something like queen e5 check. So the more space around my opponent's king, the stronger my queen becomes. After they took back on h4, I decided to go queen to e4. I was a little bit worried that maybe this might be a problem in future. And when my opponent went rook c8, I was like, okay, now I have to be careful and make sure that I don't move my king up here so that I like drop all of these pawns or potentially even get checkmated. But I thought queen to e4 was a decent move because I thought I have two threats over here. Possibly, yeah, I think two threats over here. It's like the first threat is queen h4 check, and then I win a pawn, and I'm also checking the king. And the second threat is pawn to f4. So pawn to f4, the bishop maybe has to move away. Then I can maybe look at something like f3 and maybe go across to g4, try go for checkmate. Like there are things that could happen here. And at this stage, I started thinking that maybe I do have an advantage and I could start playing for a win, but I still wasn't entirely sure. So rook c8, I decided just because their bishop was a dark squared bishop, I decided to just stay off any of the dark squares. So I went king to f7. They then went check. And here I thought, that's like instinct, and actually at this stage the engine even tells me to kind of go g7, but I was a little bit worried. I don't know if I didn't see that my queen was defending this, but I was worried that like after check, I mean I still had probably about 11 minutes left on the clock, maybe a bit more. I thought the rook c6 was a move over here. So I was like, if I go over here, there's rook c6. I am still training my visualization ability. So like, if I go king across here, then there's check and then here. And I don't like this whole situation. Like, maybe it's fine, maybe it's not. But so I didn't like king g6 for some reason. I thought over here, there's potentially a threat of like rook across and rook here if the bishop goes to d4. There's still a threat if I go to e8, but I thought, let me just keep my king as far away from possible from all of the action, and I'm here, I'm not going to be in any checks, we should be fine. So my opponent then went rook c5, I took on h4, and at this stage I was doing some like really, really hard calculation, and my opponent went to g2 and offered me a draw. My opponent offered me a draw. I'd already seen at this point, that I had a draw, so the draw that I have is just queen check over here. If they go across, I can go over here. If they go here, I can go here. Go back, they can go here. I can check here. There's absolutely no way for them to escape this. So I knew in this situation that I could use the rest of my time essentially to try and look for a win, or to try and decide if I wanted to accept the draw or not. It's always like a psychological thing when you get a draw offer, because I realized that I had a perpetual check. I like knew for certain I had perpetual check. So I'm like, I can use up most of my time if I need to, and then if I don't accept the draw, or if I'm like, yeah, sure, we can have the draw or something, and I play on a couple of, if I decline the draw, if I play on a couple of moves and my opponent then wants to carry on playing, I'm like, I should be able to get a perpetual. So I sat and thought in this position. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I have a win. as I said a couple of moves ago, I felt like already things had started turning in my favor. And here I spent most of my time trying to calculate like a definitive win. Because if I could see that I was definitely like promoting the pawn or checkmating the king or something like that in the next like 5 to 10 moves, I was going to play that. What I saw was I was looking at this, so I was thinking like queen check over here, king goes here. I was like, I can push, they're going to go over here. I can push again. I'm threatening. Well, I think I also looked at like queen h3, but I also have, oh, it's not my move yet. I was thinking like maybe they go across here and then check and then king over here. This is what I was calculating out. I went back a bit. I was like, I could also, if I want to, I could just push this first. So now if the bishop goes over here, I can then go, what was I going to do? I think I was going to go check over here. I was thinking king goes back. I might have even, yeah, I think this was mainly the thing. In some of the lines, I had my queen somehow on the h file, and I thought this was going to be a possibility, so they had to move across to the king. Then I was looking here, and I was like, can I do anything here? And I was like, they just block it, although that doesn't make any sense, because then I do probably almost get checkmate. Okay, they can go rook e5 and then move the bishop out the way to defend. But yeah, so I was looking at all of this, and I thought probably my plan in this position is I just have to push the pawn. Because I do have a past h pawn. I was like, they're pretty sorted over here. The king, unfortunately, I can't get a checkmate. I just, no matter how much I tried, I couldn't find a checkmate. And that makes sense because there is no checkmate on the board according to the engine. Unless they go to, oh, if they go across here, then f3. F3 and things are looking quite unpleasant. Okay, so apparently there's a mate over there, but if they go down to f1, there's no checkmate in this position. So I was sitting and thinking, and I was like, probably my plan is I push this over here, and then a lot of my thoughts were so like, it's been a really long tournament, too long day, this is the last game that's going on, like if I finish the game now, then we can, I know you shouldn't think of all these things, but I was like, then I can just, like, it'll just be prize money, I can go home, I can like chill for the rest of the afternoon. I was like, this was a scary game. I feel like okay that I made the comeback. There are a couple of moves that I was proud of. And there was like a little glimmer of doubt in my, would it be a glimmer? There was a hint of a doubt. Because my concern was that if I started pushing this pawn, my concern was that in some sort of scenario, I might end up dropping the a pawn. And if I drop the a pawn, then I start to worry a little bit because maybe they can get their pawn going. I'm still pretty sure that I would be here, but I'm also by this stage, I'm down, like my clock is quite low. I don't have a lot of time. You guys have seen what happened to me in the fourth round. The fourth round where I was like completely winning and then just I blended an easy fork. So I was thinking, I don't know, I get some rating points if I draw, because this is a high rated opponent. I get guaranteed second place. And I get to end the game a little bit earlier. I'm still proud overall with how I played the chess this weekend. Like, sure, I'll have some regrets that I didn't play on for a win, but it'll be fine. So I said, okay, cool, we can have the draw. The game is over, a draw. The engine over here says that I do have quite a big advantage, so I'll study this endgame and just like double check that I can beat the computer playing like this. So my instincts at least were correct in evaluating the position as well, but just the fact that it was like guaranteed second place, it was ending the tournament, everyone was like literally just waiting for our game to finish, and also the fact that I was getting, yeah, clear second if I got the draw. I was happy with that. And then the drama started. Well, not immediately, but that was the game overall. So if you're heading off after chess, thanks. But here's the drama that happened after this. So my opponent, I like discussed the game a bit. He was also like, yeah, maybe he'll be able to win this. We looked at like one or two variations, and it did look as though black was doing decently, and someone else said black was doing decently. But we were also like, it's not unreasonable to go for the draw for either of us in terms of white is down, draw makes sense. Black has the potential to mess up, so taking a draw is okay. And endgames are always tricky to evaluate it as well. Like one different move can make all the difference. So we both felt a draw was fine. We then went and handed in our results, and as we were walking out of the hall, like discussing the game, my opponent was like, "Oh well, at least like we tie third." I think that's what he said, and I was like, no. I was like, I get clear second because I have 3.5 points out of 6, and you have I think 2.5, and the other guy has 4 points. So he'll have 4th, or he'll have more points than me or something like that. I can't remember the exact scores, but it worked out that I should have been winning essentially, or coming in second, because the other people had got a 0.4 bye, which obviously sucked for them, as I said at the start, because they didn't get another chance to play. But I'd had to play another game and had to actually like earn the extra points. And I was expecting a bye, and I was like, that's just the way the computer had worked. So then we went and like spoke to the arbiter, and I was like, no, you guys agreed to 0 points, so that's the like Rebecca's right, she comes second. And then my opponent said, no, the way he understood it was when we had discussed it. And as I said, it was an informal discussion. When we discussed it, we'd said, like, I was getting the bye. So therefore, it didn't make a difference to the standings. But now that it didn't make a difference, everyone else should get a point. I was like, well, that's not fair because I didn't get a free point. Like, I had to play all of my games. And now I'm being kicked down to joint third if everyone gets a point for a bye. And then the other guy who was involved in it, because it was the three of us who were affected by the bye versus no bye situation, because we were all on such similar points, he hadn't even been like present at the discussion earlier because he had a bye in the first round of the day, so he just wasn't there. And so it was, no matter what the outcome was going to be, someone was going to get screwed over, because if everyone got a 1 point bye, I was being screwed over because I hadn't got a bye. And the thing that made me like fight for it and say this is not okay was because I was like, if I had known this, I would have 100% not accepted the draw over here, because I thought I was possibly better. I decided, because I'm getting clear second, I'm going to take the draw. I'm going to accept the draw, just finish the game. So I was like, this is not fair, because I would have played for the win. Like, I would have carried on playing in that position if I'd known I had to get a win in order to get second place, because I also had better tie breaks. So on direct encounter, the other guy who was going to be second, I had beaten him. So if I had won this game, I would have had the same number of points as him. If he got like 1 point added from the bye, we would have the same number of points, but on direct encounter, so I had beaten him, I would have been better. So I would have been clear second. So I was like, this is not okay. I had so much regret for accepting the draw, and I think that might be like a lesson for future. Never just accept a draw. Like, always play for the win. Even if you think you can get prize money and stuff like that, just go for the win. Avoid all this drama. So I've never regretted taking a draw so much. In the end, the organizers were great, and what they did was they ran the pairings, or they ran the results to see what happened if they added the 1 point bye to everyone. And in that scenario, somehow, I don't know how the tiebreaks worked out. I'm not sure what the tiebreaks were, because direct encounter didn't count. And in that scenario, I think I ended up being fourth, which meant I got 0 prize money. So I went from like second place prize money to fourth place, only getting the female prize. And I was like, that's not really fair. So what the organizers did in the end was the results and chess results. So that's the thing that everyone else saw. The results and chess results said that I came fourth. But at the prize giving, they announced that I came second, and that the other guy who was on second came second as well. And then in third place was my opponent from this game, who'd finished half a point lower. And yeah, so that was the end result. The organizers also added a bit of prize money so that no one lost out in terms of prize money. It was just a really unfortunate situation, I think, because things were a little bit more informal with the tournament. It was such a small group, and we didn't expect me to get the bye, and I hadn't thought to question anything when I didn't get a bye. I just thought, okay, well, this sucks, I have to play another game of chess. I didn't even think like prize money stuff, like how does that affect the final standings. I had it in passing during the game, just that it sucked for the people who had byes, but I was like, it also sucks for me because I'm playing extra. So that was the drama that happened, which hopefully I've never had it happen at a tournament before. I don't think it will ever happen at a tournament again, but yeah, it's something to spice things up, keep things interesting, keep us on our toes. Not the most pleasant experience, but it was great that the organizers did at least like sort things out at the end, and that they did accommodate us, and they'll definitely keep that in mind in future, that things like that won't happen. And yeah, so I ended the tournament then on second place, fourth place according to some results, but second place overall. I managed 3.5 out of 6. I was very happy with that. The only thing that I was disappointed was just that I didn't push for the win in this game, and that an unpleasant situation could have been avoided if I had done that. Then obviously I had some regrets about like hanging my bishop in round 4 and plunging my pawn on move 5 in round 3. But all in all, I was really happy that I played the event. I really, really enjoyed it. Despite the drama, the rest of the event was great. It was well run and everything, and I really enjoyed getting back to over the board chess. More than I thought I would, because as I said, I really didn't enjoy the tournament last year. when I played it during COVID as well, and this time it was just so much more pleasant, and I forgot how much I missed over the board chess. So hopefully I'll get back to playing again soon, and I'll play a lot more tournaments. I can show you some more games, and I actually have a bit more motivation to work on my chess now because it's over the board chess where you have to like actually play good chess. You can't just swindle your opponents. But yeah, thank you very much for being here in all of the recaps. Really do appreciate the support. And I will see you in the next video, which will probably not be a game analysis related video. But thanks for being here, and bye.